Welcome back to the Daily Poem here on the Close Reads Podcast Network. I'm David Kern. Today's poem is by William Wordsworth, who lived from 1770 to 1850 and is, without a doubt, one of the most famous poets to ever write in the English language. Yesterday, I read a poem by William Blake called London, and it was a fairly depressing poem about the state of London in his time. And I mentioned that William Harmon mentioned that there is another poem from somewhere around the same era with another take on London of the times. And that poem is William Wordsworth's Composed Upon Westminster Bridge, September 3rd, 1802. And I'm going to bring that poem to you today in conversation, so to speak, with the poem that I read yesterday. So this poem was composed in 1802 and published in 1807. It goes like this. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning. Silent, bare ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor valley, rock, or hill. Ne'er saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. This is a sonnet written to the city of London. It's an Italian sonnet. And it's interesting because Wordsworth is often known, of course, as a nature poet. Many of his poems are consumed with nature, with the beauty of nature, the value of nature, the benefits of being out in nature. And he, of course, takes it further than just those trite statements that I just made. He gets into the spiritual nature of nature, the spiritual values of nature, the way that it brings culture together, the way it produces culture and preserves culture. But here, he's talking about the city, about the way the city looks in the light. In his other poem, The World is Too Much With Us, Harmon notes that, quote, the world of culture makes us unable to enjoy the world of nature because we're too busy earning a living to live. But he doesn't say that here. He seems to be doing a different take on it. He points out, the beautiful churches, the fine buildings, even the beautiful buildings that are the financial buildings, the domes, the theaters, all the things that make up this beautiful city. And he's celebrating those things. He's celebrating the way they look in the light. He's celebrating the calm that he sees there, which is very interesting because he's speaking of this very busy place, like he might speak of rolling hills in the English countryside, of a farm, of farmland, of the things that he saw when he went out on a walk around the Lake District or something like that. But he calls this sight so touching in its majesty. And this, of course, is kind of the counter to William Blake's very depressing take on London, where people are piled on top of each other. There's certainly nothing majestic about it, nothing calm, nothing like a river gliding at its own sweet will. But in both Blake's poem and in this poem, the River Thames is this sort of central, core, defining image. There's this reminder that the city's built up around it, built up around the natural world. And in Wordsworth, it seems like, in some ways, the way the light plays, the way nature interacts with the city itself, is one of the things that preserves and renews the city, which makes it beautiful. And the interaction between the two is so crucial. I find that very interesting. I find these two poems very interesting to be in conversation with one another. So here once more is William Wordsworth's Composed Upon Westminster Bridge, September 3rd, 1802. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning. Silent, bare, ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock, or hill. Ne'er saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. This has been the Daily Poem. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with another poem.